Hey guys, Matt from Adventure Sport, and today we're going to talk about internet lumens versus actual lumens and why there's such a big difference. I'm going to show you real-world test results from various flashlight brands and also how some of the cheap LED emitters sold on eBay and other websites fare against quality brands like Cree. Lumen is a measurement of the total volume of visible light emitted from a source. The way this is most commonly measured is with an integrating sphere. It's basically a ball that the source, in our case an LED or a flashlight, can be shined into that will capture and diffuse the light into an even pattern so that it can be accurately measured. My measuring system is homemade, so it's not going to be as accurate as tests done with a $10,000 piece of equipment, but I've certainly found it to be more reliable than the bloated claims of many internet salespeople. Time to go shopping. For this experiment, I ordered some of the more common types of flashlight that you may have seen on the web. I also picked up a couple of the 100-watt or 10,000 lumen emitters that have made a big splash on YouTube recently. As you can see from the seller's post, this particular one claims to be 11,000 lumens at 3,000 milliamps. First up to bat in our test is going to be our 1000 lumen T6 flashlight. Unfortunately, on max power, best case scenario, this particular light only tested to be about 244 lumens. It's just that, right there in writing on the page, if you remember, it said 1000 lumen. And that's not even the most exaggerated claim that I've found on these, and some of them claim 1600 or 2000. And the thing is, when you look down the barrel or you take it apart on the inside, the electronics in all of them are basically the same. Next up is our 11,000 lumen or 100-watt eBay emitters. In order to create the best possible thermal path for this, I smoothed out this aluminum stock on my lathe and then with some sandpaper, and I lapped the bottom of the LED and used thermal grease, and we'll get into why that's important in another video, but right now we're ready to go. Okay, I've got my system set up now, and I won't be running this off of my bench power supply because it only goes to 30 volts and is a 36 volt emitter, so I have a heavy duty battery pack hooked up. So we've got, this is our amperage, 500 milliamps, and our voltage, 29.1, and this is our luminous output. Now that number, that's not 370 lumens right there. It's, actually, you have to multiply that number by 0.032 for this, and I'll explain that in another video. Right now, I have a variable resistor set up, and I'm just going to slide that up, and we'll move up in amperage and in voltage and also in output up until the time we reach the emitter's peak. Okay, now as you can see, we've reached what the emitter is rated at, 3,000 milliamps. We're at 36 volts. And we've got really stable output, so that means that our heat sinking is good and the emitter's doing okay. It bounces a couple, but other than that, we're good. I'm actually going to keep on going up with this just because I know that we've done a really good job heat sinking, and I want to see what the emitter's actually capable of, so we're going to drive it higher than its rated capacity. Now we're at 4 amps, and you can see we're still fairly stable. We're bouncing around a little bit right there, but I'm going to keep going until we find the place where the emitter just can't handle it anymore. Okay, now we're at a little over 5 amps, 40 volts, and you can see if you watch this meter how it just flopped around a little more, how it's really starting to fall pretty fast right now. that means we're kind of at the point where even if we add more current, we're not going to go up in output. Now you can see on our chart what this emitter is really capable of, and if you look there toward the center, I've got that green arrow pointing to the place where the claim was 11,000 lumens, and what we actually got was more like 6,000. If you go on up the chart a little further, we did overdrive the emitter quite a bit and still never got anywhere near 11,000. And I'm not saying that this emitter is a bad investment, because if you remember, we only paid about $3.60 for it. So 6,000 lumens for $3.60 is not a bad deal, really. One last thing I want to address because it is relevant. Now, I've seen several people on YouTube and some other forums take these type of emitters and they hook up some 9-volt batteries in series. You know, these are each supposed to be 9 volts. So if you run them in series, it makes sense that you know, if you put 36 volts to the emitter to you know, your 10,000 lumen emitter, you've got a 10,000 lumen flashlight. So we've got our pack of 9-volt batteries in series, and I'm going to show you. We get actually a little over 36. We're getting 37 volts there. And at 37 volts, when we were using the heavy duty pack or the bench power supply, you're getting really a lot of current. You're getting a lot of output from the emitter. But that isn't really going to be the case with these. These are going to sag a lot under a load. I was using a very high quality battery that can carry a tremendous load. Now this is the test under a load, and you can see right here we were getting 37 volts on the alkaline batteries, and we're getting 30 here. And even though we're driving it, we had 36 volts hooked up, we're only getting 700 or 800 milliamps. You can see this is steadily falling like a rock, like when we were driving it at 5 amps off the good batteries. It's just going lower and lower, and this is a much, much, much lower number. I think before, when we were at 3 amps, this was like 1,500. I can't remember exactly, but it was a lot more than that. I'm not criticizing anyone else's efforts. I'm just pointing out that those batteries aren't going to do the job. Because this video is being released on the heels of Cree's new XPG3 emitter, I decided to run a controlled test with this as well, and I did a really good heat sink. I reflowed the emitter to a copper MC PCB and then to a copper rod and ran the test the same way, and you can see by the chart we get a really, really different story than with the generic eBay emitter. Right there you can see the arrow pointing to the 2 amp output, and Cree has rated that at 795 lumens at 2 amps, and my test I got just slightly a couple of lumens different than that, but instead of dying off like we saw in the other emitter real soon, I kept driving it harder and harder and harder and kept going up and up and up, and instead of getting half the rated output, I got more than double. It took all the way up to 8 amps before we finally hit the deadfall where we were no longer gaining any output by adding current to the emitter. By now, some of you may be wondering if lumens are a discernible scientific measurement, basically a mathematical equation. Why is there so much gray area? And the reason for that is simple. It's because most of the manufacturers aren't actually measuring anything. Their business model is this: make a flashlight as cheap as possible, check our competitor's website and see what their output numbers for the same flashlight are, then add several hundred or several thousand lumens to that number and post it on our website. Unfortunately, the flashlight industry has always fallen victim to this kind of marketing. Lumens, like their predecessor Candle Power, have always been very elastic in nature. About 10 years ago, things really weren't all that bad. It started out with just a little bit of padding or puffing of their numbers, and a light with a Cree emitter in it rated at 180 lumens by Cree would be installed in one of these lights and marked by Company A as 200 lumen XRE P4 flashlight. Then Company B would jump to 240 lumens, forcing Company A to rewrite their sale as 300. Not only that, every time an LED came out that could actually output a higher number, that would be the new label of the flashlight regardless of whether any components had been changed at all. What started out with a few extra lumens quickly became a few percent, spiraling ever upward, becoming a few 100%, and by the time LED technology had actually come to the place that 300 and 400 lumens was really possible, the salespeople for these companies had decided to add some, then some more, then add another full 1,000 just for good measure. Now, I know that was a bit of a long spiel, but I said that to get here, to bring us to the grand champion of bogus lumen output of all time. Now, you would think that at some point everyone would just say enough is enough. At some point they would abandon this strategy and go with something else, and I thought so too until I found this next light. I think you'll probably recognize it. It's the Trustfire 13,800 lumen 12T6. I knew full well when I bought this light it wasn't going to do that, but I actually ordered it just to use the parts. I wanted the head off of it to build another light. But I thought, since I've got it here, I might as well test it just to see what it'll do. However, when I tested this light, the maximum output, full blast, was 2,700 lumens. Less than a quarter of it, of what it said on the side, in writing. They doubled their number, then they doubled it again, and then they added a few thousand more just for good measure on top of that. They added a full decimal place to their number and didn't stop there. 11,100 extra lumens by my count. Now that we've had a chance to see some of the lights that don't really live up to their claims and have less than desirable outputs, I want to show you a few of the lights that I really like that do live up to their claims. And the first one is an American-made light. It's the Mag light, and a lot of people have heard of this. And although they aren't really known for having extremely high output, they do in fact have legitimate claims, and now they're coming out with some that are 500 and 600 lumens even, which is not raging bright by today's standard, but it is a legitimate claim. And also there's a ton of upgrades, including the Adventure Sport upgrade that you can just drop in the end of it and gain thousands of lumens. Surefire is also another great brand. They're known for total quality. I mean, just absolute premium. And they've got very competitive numbers on their lights and one of the best warranty policies that I've ever seen. Some other brands, it's not just American brands, but there's lots of foreign brands too. China has some good lights coming out of there. You just have to know where to look. And one of my favorites that's manufactured in China is 47's brand. And although he is an American, the CEO of that company, they are manufactured in China. But these are also really good lights, and their numbers check out 100%. In fact, their numbers are going to be more accurate than mine, probably. Also, Zebra light is another great light that it's a compact light, and they have really nice finish on them, and there's a ton of different models you can get. They make flashlights and headlamps, and these also review very well. On the budget end of the spectrum, my personal favorite happens to be Convoy. I haven't had a lot of chance to test their out the front numbers on the factory ones, but they are total quality. For the dollar per quality, I would say this light is one of the kings in the industry. As far as what you get for dollars spent, I think this is one of the best buys that you can make because the finish on them is really good. There's a lot of thought put into the design, and they're quite a bit cheaper than any of these other lights. Surefires, you're looking at, usually the $200 range. 4.7's lights, depending on which one you get, around $100. Zebra lights, $80. These lights you can get for around $30 depending on, the options. There's also quite a few other brands. I don't happen to have any here. Nightcore is another one that uses ANSI spec numbers, which are, again, better than my own even. Through Night is another good brand. And the list goes on and on. You just have to know where to look. There's a lot of good lights out there. And so the next thing I want to mention is reviewers. I know from my personal experience the best sources for information on any flashlight is Candle Power Forum and Budget Light Forum. On Candle Power Forum, you're going to find the best of the best, the most premium lights, and the biggest, baddest everything. And on Budget Light Forum, you'll find some of that too, but mostly what you'll find is lower cost budget alternatives, and they don't exactly have a motto that I know of, but if they did, it would probably be something like 80% quality at 30% price. So you're really going to find a lot of good information and find out where the best deals on stuff is there too. There's a few reviewers that I happen to really like too, and there's a lot out there, but some of my top picks are Johnny Mac. He's got his own blog, and he's really good at blowing the stink off of some of the manufacturers' claims on this stuff. Not just for output either. I mean, he goes over the everything from how good the finish quality is to the beam quality of the light, and it's just really a good source if you want to look and find out what's out there before you spend your money. He's already spent his for you. So I thought that was nice. And another one I happen to like, I think Mhanlen or Mhanlen, I'm not sure if I'm saying his name right, but he has a YouTube channel, and he has a lot of good reviews on there. His YouTube channel name is Advanced Knife Bro, and I'll put links in the description for both of these guys. And if you just spend a little bit of time looking over these reviews, you'll save yourself a lot of time and money, because they're going to ferret out any of the nasty little, lying, inflated claims, and they're going to just show you what's real. They don't have, a vested stake in any of these companies. Batteries is one other thing I wanted to talk about, because that's important too. Especially when you get into really, really high-powered lights, it is very important that you get a quality battery, because disastrous things can happen. If you just take all of the claims of these manufacturers at face value, you could burn your house down, because they make ridiculous claims about cells being able to do things they absolutely cannot do, and that's why I think that the battery is absolutely a key component. And CPF member HKJ is, in my mind, the king of all battery reviewers. He has got independent tests of literally hundreds, if not thousands, of batteries that he discharges and posts all of the pertinent information, so you know exactly which cells can do what they say and which ones could get your arm blown off. So that's an incredible resource there, and I'll put links for that in the description. Now, these are just a few reviewers that I know, and so this is the point where I'm reaching out to you, because I know there's a lot of them out there that I'm probably not familiar with. So if you or someone you know is a good reviewer that is, not puffing for some company, but is actually putting out quality reviews about different lights, post it in the comments and I'll add it to my description so that we can use this as kind of a hub, a resource for people who are looking to get some quality lights. I hope that you've enjoyed this video, and if you'd like to learn how to make your own light measuring device, that'll be my next video where I'm going to teach you how to build an integrating sphere and also a lesser known device called a Lumen tube. And so if you'd like to get a notification when that video is ready, click subscribe and you'll get an email about it. Thanks for watching. Good luck.